Your eyes do not deceive you, friends. This is a particularly fine example of the Ferrari 812 Competizione Berlinetta. An 818 brake horsepower, nerve-jangling, warmongering cluster bomb of nuclear-grade Italian firepower. It is, of course, the track-orientated, fire-breathing special edition of the 812 Superfast. There are 1,000 coupes and 500 apertas in existence. And it's pretty much the most desirable modern Ferrari, short of the Daytona SP3. And here it is, this week on Drive Every Ferrari, which means you get to discover every detail of this amazing machine, its exterior design, unique features, the eye-popping interior, surprise engine bay, the stats, the history, and of course, what it's like to drive this £1 million plus Ferrari on the road. I'm really going to enjoy this, mainly because you've all been pestering me for months to see it, and also because it's the current most exciting Ferrari, and this one is mine. The Ferrari 812 Competizione was first announced in May 2021 in a video live stream from Ferrari's test track at Fiorano, hosted by suave Ferrari marketing guru Enrico Galliera. The world's first glimpse of the grey Competizione launch car with its distinctive yellow stripe saw it emerge quickly and slightly sideways from the pits, and it proceeded to shag around the test track at high speed, with its naturally aspirated V12 screaming at every opportunity. It was an exciting moment because the Tifosi all knew that a hot 812 was on the cards, and Ferrari, obviously listening to feedback from the car guys, chose to reveal the coupe and aperta Competiziones at the same time, as you can see here. Ferrari said it would be making 1,000 coupes and 500 apertas, making the drop top immediately more desirable and valuable. But in truth, such was the demand for this car that even top Ferrari customers were not guaranteed to receive one. So much so, in fact, that Ferrari asked all those lucky enough to get an allocation to stay very quiet about it.
Not a great plan.
The exterior and design of this exquisite racing Ferrari, well, it's astounding, isn't it?
That's putting it mildly, 007.
The sort of car that turns grown 50-something men into little boys, jumping up and down, pointing and grabbing their privates in excitement. Look at that squat, muscular frame, the gargantuan bonnet or hood, dissected by the prominent carbon fibre blade. The way the cabin sits so far back in the silhouette, the sloping rear boot or trunk lid, and those shark-like carbon fins that set this apart from the 812 Superfast. It all adds up to one menacing, indistinguishable shape, and that shape is defined by the need to dissipate as much heat as possible generated by the increased engine output. 818 brake horsepower, up from the original 789 of the Superfast. Spot one of these rumbling along the road towards you and I can guarantee you'll become a lifelong Ferrari fan. I wanted my 812 Competizione to mimic and pay tribute to this very special 1956 14 Louvre 250 GT Tour de France number 0585 GT that was once owned by Walt Disney and features in the Herbie film The Love Bug, and it was restored by DK Engineering. This special historic Ferrari is perhaps the car I would most like to own, and to stand next to it in real life is what it must be like to stand next to God. This particular car has nearly £30,000 worth of optional 4-layer paint, with its main bodywork in Rosso Magma, which was the launch colour of the Daytona SP3. Your eyes don't deceive you, the wheels are actually gold, but it's not the same colour on the Car Guys Pista. This one is in fact a shade called Oro Chiaro Opaco. The Nart stripe runs all the way from the front of the car right over the centre and then extends all the way down to the bottom of the bumper. And it's painted in Blue America and Bianco Italia. As you can see here at the very front, you've now got two large carbon ducts on either side of the main grille, as opposed to the same section on the Superfast. These allow the intakes for the engine radiators to be extended sideways. Note the more pronounced lower nose and carbon fibre lips that protrude just enough to be scraped on curbs as you're parking it. But hey, at least it saves this expensive paintwork. This imposing transverse groove and carbon blade runs across the whole front of the car and evacuates hot air from the engine bay in the most efficient and rapid way possible. And it's the same for these ducts here. That's hot air removal 101, folks, and as a result, it's 10% more efficient at cooling the engine compared to the 812 Superfast. And of course, that evacuated air doesn't just spill out willy-nilly. That air gets channeled along the sculptured sides of the Competizione, courtesy of these pronounced scallops, and then over the top of the rear spoiler and into its wake, aiding downforce and ultimately making the car even stickier to the road. With a car weighing near on 1,600 kilograms and travelling at up to 211 miles an hour, you need good brakes. And what do we have here? Only the aero calipers first seen on the hybrid SF90, another Ferrari that was extremely fast and heavy and therefore needed prodigious stopping power. The greater amount of cold air funneled to these brakes, together with the reworked suspension components that aid airflow and weight saving, have resulted in the brake oil being reduced by a not insubstantial 30% compared to the Superfast. And that's a stat I never thought I would tell you about. This car has the optional painted shields, and they are important for two reasons. Number one, they make the car look historic and therefore much cooler. And number two, they are larger than the enamel ones and therefore suit the proportions of a larger car. Quite frankly, if you own a Competizione and you don't have painted shields, then you've made a serious mistake. But it is the rear end, or ass, of the 812 Competizione that is the most dramatic angle, because of course there is no window, just a huge slab of aluminium covered in squirrely fins, otherwise known as vortex generators. How do they work? Don't know, but they make downforce happen. And they look alien and weird and unsettling and distinctive. And it means you can only see out of the rear of the car using this camera. Let's see how that works out when we get inside, shall we? Believe that. And as you can see, the rear is radically different to the Superfast, with two square menacing Death Star exhaust ports instead of polished quad pipes, and a huge lower carbon diffuser that runs the entire width of the car and adds 25% more downforce than the Superfast. There's also a much larger spoiler and humongous rear exit vents, replacing the Superfast's dainty cathedral-spired ones. And one of my favourite details, these cowled rear lights, a completely different treatment to the Superfast's Daytona-inspired ones, and a unique design feature of the Competizione. I'd also like to highlight these delicious historic slats in the rear that mimic those of the 1966 330 P3. Ferrari's in-house design department has been criticised by many for its over-reliance on classic Ferrari design touches, but in this case, I think they've got it spot on. You'll also note, with regards to the tyres, this car doesn't have the optional coloured writing on the sidewalls because they look stupid. As it's a front-engine Ferrari, the boot or trunk is of course at the back. You'd be surprised how many people get that wrong. The aluminium rear deck lifts up with a button press on either the interior of the door or on the key, and it reveals, just like the 812 Superfast, a surprisingly capacious space. You can fit a lot in here. It's relatively deep, it's pretty big and square. You can actually lift up here for a bit of additional height if you want to, and also you get that fabulous view straight through the car. So a very practical racing car this is. Here we are then inside the 812 Competizione, and I'm going to show you the interior of this car because it's in many ways as spectacular as the exterior. And also I think you've seen far too much of my face already. First thing to notice then, wow, 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 wow. As you can see, the most alarming, surprising and wonderful detail of the interior of this particular car are these seats.
I have a chair.
And yes, I went for the most splendid blue I have ever seen. Azzurro Santorini.
King in the castle, king in the castle.
And it's such a positive, happy, warm blue, and it suits the unique square pattern seats in the Competizione. They also match the historic racing tribute nature of this car, because many racing Ferraris in the 60s had blue seats, red paint and gold wheels. I am literally fizzing with excitement every time I open the door of the car and that explosion of blue hits me. And check out this little Nart stripe at the 12 o'clock position on the steering wheel, matching the big one on the outside. I love that. My dealer, Meridian Modena, added it, and they were so right to do so. This car's interior fabric is exclusively in blue scuro Alcantara with blue stitching. You can see I've got these accents of blue on the door handles, which I particularly like. They match the leather of the seats. And there is, of course, a smothering of gloss carbon fibre, particularly for the central tunnel, the door cards, and the little bit between the air vents in the centre of the dashboard. The Competizione interior is largely that of the familiar 812 Superfast, but with this faux chrome H-gate seen in the V8 models. It allows you to select reverse gear, choose between auto and manual gear selection, and of course, you can activate the launch mode, which I never will. This car comes optioned with the passenger display, a largely pointless device that makes your speed way too obvious to your co-pilot. But to be fair, the latest Ferrari models give even greater fingertip control and a lot more functions and features for you to fiddle around with. Since this is a full-blown racing Ferrari for the road, it also has an optional fire extinguisher. Not because of fear for an impending fireball, but because it looks cool and all motorsporty, just like the Challenge Stradale. And now to the worst bit of the 812 Competizione interior, the rear view camera in place of a traditional mirror. Yes, I know it's essential because Ferrari deemed it a good idea to completely cover the rear deck with airflow aids, but it's just not as good as a normal mirror. The resolution is fine, but since I've poor eyesight, because I'm very old, it is blurred to me all the time, and it's way too zoomed in, making fine reversing manoeuvres even trickier. And how many times do you think you're going to look into it expecting a reflection? Answer: every flipping journey. And you have to actually flick the switch at the bottom to turn it into a conventional mirror. The closed off rear deck also means the car feels darker inside, but at least this one has the full interior carbon luggage area. The steering wheel is slightly smaller than the 812 Superfast and it's Alcantara on the Competizione. It's got all the controls that you need, including the important real-life control Manettino, far better than any of those touchscreen businesses. It's got a stop-start button, which is exactly what you want. The indicators are vastly improved and chunky, as are the ones for the lights. And this car's also got controls on the steering wheel for answering telephones, which I will never do. I mean, who wants to take a telephone call when you're driving one of these? It of course has those digital screens with the nonsensical switches and buttons to control them, which is always a massive faff. But as long as you set it up before you actually set off and drive, it's not as big a pain as you think it would be. And in this racing version, you even still get a glove box, where traditionally Ferrari has given you none. You press the button and it opens inside and you've got some space there for a little bit of storage. The whole thing feels special. It feels like a starship in here and I absolutely love it. I don't know about you, but I find opening the bonnet or hood of a V12 Ferrari is always an event. A moment of reverence, a draw of bated breath for the work of the engineering geniuses at Maranello. This Competizione does not disappoint. It gives good engine, which is not surprising because it's based on the 812 Superfast, already one of the best power plants ever created. It's a 6.5 litre 65-degree naturally aspirated V12 that generates 818 brake horsepower, that's 829 PS, and 510 pounds-feet of torque, and earth-trembling 692 Newton meters. And it weighs just under 1,500 kilograms dry, call it 1,650 fully loaded. And with that prodigious power, you would expect the Competizione is as quick as a whippet with a bumful of dynamite. And you'd be right. 0 to 60 comes in 2.85 seconds, 125 miles an hour in 7.5 seconds, and on to a top speed of 211 miles an hour. That's 340 kilometers an hour. And now for the real surprise of this engine, and it is something that was specified without my knowledge by my dealer Meridian Modena. A fully signed engine bay by the Ferrari line workers. Here's me discovering this incredible feature for the first time when I collected the car, and I have to tell you folks, I was almost brought to tears. It is that special. I mean, just look at it. This was something that was also a feature on my F12 TDF, except of course I didn't spec that car from new. Now, I'm not going to bore you with all the specifics of the improvements made to the Competizione engine. I am, after all, just an owner, not an engineer. But suffice to say, deep in the belly of this Balrog are redesigned conrods, titanium pistons, and a diamond-like carbon coating on the camshaft. It's all very Formula One. It works. And that's all I need to know. I also know that Ferrari has helped to mitigate the effect of the sound-deadening, fun-sucking gasoline particulate filter by adding a new exhaust tailpipe to bring joyous, high-revving engine noise back to the V12. Both the 812 Competizione and the Aperta are equipped with a 7-speed dual-clutch gearbox, which reduces shift times by 5% compared to the 812 Superfast. Always nice, but imperceptible to humans. You'd expect the Competizione to be bristling with cutting-edge Ferrari racing technology, and of course, you would be right. This is the first outing for independent four-wheel steering. It's got the new version 7 of the side slip control, eDiff3, and the latest F1 track, magnehelilogical suspension, and the virtual short wheelbase 3.0, which integrates the electric front steering with the electronically controlled independent rear steering. But that's enough jargon. All it means is I've got a greater chance of harnessing all that power and keeping it on the road. Speaking of which, I'm just letting the car warm up, get all the fluids up to temperature before we attempt any beans action, which I know you're waiting for. Ahead of me, of course, the central rev counter, which in this case is in grey. I've got the left-hand screen showing me the speed, overall speed, on the right-hand side giving me the vital temperatures, which I can flick between. Oh, see what I mean by stiff? That was a very small undulation in the road, and I jumped out of my seat. It's a very cool cockpit, and it does feel like I could literally drive down to Le Mans, go straight through the gates onto the circuit and compete in the 24 hours. This, of course, being the V12 flagship, this has got physical buttons everywhere. There's none of that haptic nonsense that you find in other cars. Proper indicator buttons as well. These have been a gradual evolution. The 458 Italias are, of course, horrible, but since then, and in the 812 particularly, they've been refining them so that they properly work. It's a good old-fashioned Manatino. We've got a good old-fashioned engine start-stop button. So even though it's ultra-modern, it still feels pleasingly old-school. Being a modern Ferrari, obviously I have to turn off the hellishly system, the stop-start system, every single time I get in the car, which is annoying. But the overwhelming sensation upon getting into a Competizione is a feeling of drama. It feels special, but it also feels flipping enormous and quite intimidating. And without the rear screen, yeah, it's a bit claustrophobic. One of the things you have to bear in mind driving a car like this is you've really got to plan your journey. Does where you're going to have enough wide parking spaces? Are the roads on the way smooth and free from speed cameras? Are they wide enough? All these things you have to think about when driving a car of this nature. It's very important. This is a valuable car and it's a fragile car. There's lots of extremities and valuable bits sticking out all over the place. You can't just jump in it and thrash it like a GR Yaris. It takes a little bit more effort. On the move, without having to do a parking manoeuvre, the digital rear screen, that camera, works quite well, but it is disconcertingly zoomed in, so it looks like every car behind you is right up your arse. Now my view ahead has got that carbon blade right ahead of me, which is dramatic, and I can see just enough of the knot stripe to make me feel quite special. I will say though, the view through the side mirrors is quite ordinary. Now, out of all the Ferraris that I've owned, this is by far the most intimidating to drive. And bear in mind that I've got a Speciale Aperta and I've had an TDF. Well, that's saying something. This is an intimidating car, but what this car does very well is it bombards the senses. The noise, the sensation of speed, the vibration, the bumpiness of the suspension, all these things are assaulting you at the same time. You've got to be prepared for that. It must be similar to what Apollo astronauts felt when they were blasting off from Cape Canaveral. But you can feel this is a slightly rippled surface and it is bucking all over the place. This is a car that likes smooth tarmac. I bet it would love Spain. Oh yeah. But in England, not so much. It's quite jiggly. It is damped quite well, but there's still quite a lot of movement. Let's see what the visibility is like at junctions. Yeah, it's shockingly bad actually. Because you've got no rear and because the seats get in the way of the tiny little window, you've got almost nothing. Almost nothing. Pulling out of a junction, therefore, is quite a gamble. But what we'll do is I think we'll give it its first taste of Car Guys beans. I think it's time. Oh yeah, it feels like I'm running over the white line constantly in this car. Ready for some beans? Ready? Ready? Oh, this thing has got some power. Oh my God. Did you hear it? Did you hear the sound? Listen to that. I mean, it must sound unbelievable from the outside, this thing. I think we'll have a little bit more of that. Oh, time for a corner. Oh yeah, braking hard. Second gear, left. Listen to that V12 though. Right, brake for a tight left, and around we go. I mean, tons of grip, tons. Remember, this has got all independent steering, so this car is exceptionally agile for its size and weight, and it feels like it can take corners at pretty much any speed. Oh. Instant down changes. Oh, listen to that. Into the corner. Almost no lean. And then, oh, as we push out. Yeah. Yeah, the power's there. There's a lot of power in this. 818 brake horsepower. Oh, there's like a really super deep bass to it when you're in a gear and you just plant your foot, and then when you just bring down through the gears, it starts to sing. Oh, As soon as you start putting some speed into it, take it on some corners, the car immediately comes alive and it starts to dance. This is exactly what you want from one of these cars. This is why you pay the big bucks for a Competizione. Oh my goodness. I mean, we are talking Death Star power. This is like being in control of something monstrous. It's got the noise, which I hope you can hear on the outside shots. It's got the sheer power. I mean, it just feels limitless, it really does. All that floatiness of the F12 and a little bit of the TDF, that's really gone. This thing is so composed at speed. The steering rack is very quick. I'm not sure if I fully believe all the magic around the four-wheel steering business, because it turns, you can do a decent turning circle, but it's not super quick. You still sometimes have to make another adjustment, but it just feels so composed, so easy to really drive quite rapidly indeed. I mean, it just feels state-of-the-art Ferrari. It feels like a real instrument of mass destruction. The driving position is perfect when you're really pedaling on. There's just nothing that gets in the way of driving. Everything is focused. Everything is pointed directly at me for maximum enjoyment. It is now starting to shrink around me. I'm getting slightly less scared to drive it, and it feels special. It feels special, as only a Ferrari can. There's just something about Ferrari that makes me feel all dewy-eyed. It's a special company, and the cars are very special. Imagine what a Daytona SP3 must be like. I mean, hopefully at some point I'll get to drive one of those and then I can share it with you, but just imagine what that's like. That really is a true limited, bespoke type Ferrari. Now the little H-gatey type controls, they are a bit fiddly, I'm not going to lie. If you're flicking in and out of reverse and drive, it's sometimes easy to miss it, it's sometimes easy to accidentally lurch forward. The car is very low. You have to engage the front lift system on this more than usual. It is low, but fortunately we do have that, and it is essential. So what do I like about the car? Well, obviously, quite a lot. I like the exterior looks. I think it looks fantastic. When you look at this car in side profile, it just looks like some super cool Le Mans racer. I like the sound of the engine. In which Ferrari has improved over the 812 Superfast. And it does sound glorious, particularly from the outside. I love the steering. It's super direct, lots of feel, quick. I like the engine response, which is, as near as makes no difference, instantaneous. I love the driving position. I love these seats. I like all the technology because it keeps me on the road instead of smashing through a wall on a bend. I like all the little design touches that there is in this car. I like the fact that the spec has been so perfectly realised by Meridian Modena. That 12 o'clock position marker, the Narc stripe, the gold wheels matching the Rosso Magma paint. I love these little blue touches that match the blue seats. The blue seats are one of my favourite things in this car. I love the signed engine bay. I love the rear deck and the look of it, and the fact that this car looks super exotic. I like the fact that it grumbles at low speed. I like the fact that it has a ridiculous amount of power and that it feels like it is the daddy. It's got physical buttons everywhere. Everything's easy to hand. Admittedly, the aircon is a little bit fiddly, but you get used to it. I like the fact that this car feels like it is the peak of Ferrari technology. It's all been developed. and that this is the moment right now, before the 12 cilindri, this is the thing. The F80 hasn't actually been delivered yet, so right now this is the peak, and I'm loving that. What do I not like about this car? Well, when you've got something this incredible, the niggles are small, and the niggles, to be honest, are mainly down to the tech. The screens, very hard to use whilst you're driving. There's way too much stuff going on. I hate those enormous safety warning messages you get when you start up modern Ferraris. Absolute pages of information. It's constantly bonging and binging if you're 0.1 of a bar off on tyre pressure, or if there's a speed limit or whatever. There's just loads of way too many electric bongs and whistles and bings, and hate all of that. The mirror, it is good, but it is a bit of a compromise, and it's very difficult in close manoeuvring. The car is big, you rely a lot on the sensors, and that does feel terrifying, because the extremities are far away and everything's so flippin' expensive. I also don't like the visibility at junctions. This car is a killer for that, so you actually have to change your driving style in order to compensate. It's a bit jiggly, yes, but that suits the character of the car. You know you're in something mean and purposeful. It's a phenomenal Ferrari, no doubt about it. If you didn't get one, I'm truly sorry. I know they were hard to get, but my God, this thing is special. I've driven a lot of cars for Drive Every Ferrari, and this is absolutely one of the best. Is it as raw as a 599 GTO? No. Does it feel more special to drive than a 599 GTO? Yeah, I think it does. The gearbox, the mechanical integrity, all the components are perfectly finely tuned in this. It feels like a full-on evolution where they've just gone through and gone, yeah, I didn't quite like that bit, let's make it better, and they have. And now we've got this, and this is an incredible Ferrari, and I am a very lucky boy. And on that bombshell, it's back to the studio. The 812 Competizione is of course the hot one of the 812 range, which included the original 2017 Superfast Coupe and 2019's fabulous 812 GTS. But it's not in any way the first sizzling limited edition V12 Ferrari. Oh no, it's got some illustrious company. The first true purposely limited edition V12 supercar was of course the F50 in 1995, a car so stupendously rare and exotic that it made the F40 look positively common. In truth though, the F50 and its hypercar successors, the LaFerrari, Daytona SP3, SP1 and SP2 based on the 812 platform, and of course the Ferrari Enzo, are a different breed to the limited V12 supercars. So let's focus on the direct lineage of the Competizione. The limited edition 550 Barchetta Pininfarina in the year 2000 was an unusual variant of the 550 Maranello, which was built to celebrate the 70-year relationship between car maker and car designer. Ferrari made just 448 of these, and it's a real shame, but you don't really see many of these being driven around anymore. Hot on the heels of the Barchetta was 2005's Super America, which was based on the 575 V12 Grand Tourer. Again, a limited edition of just 559, but this time with a unique flip-top glass roof. But it wasn't until the mighty 599 GTO that Ferrari made a limited edition track-focused fire-breathing version of the V12 flagship. The GTO took the basic 599 Fiorano package, bulked out the body, significantly enhanced the engine, and turned it into an entirely different beast. Even the rare 80 model 599 SA Aperta seen here couldn't compete with the ferocity of the GTO. But since then, things have gone a bit, well, bonkers. The maturing like a fine wine F12 TDF appeared in 2015, and all agreed that it was extremely scary, brutal, and instantly collectible. But like a thoroughbred stallion with bungee cords wrapped around its testicles, it could be a handful and you had to stay alert at all times. This is the true forebear of the 812 Competizione, just as the 599 GTO was to the TDF. The Competizione was the last hurrah of the 812 line, and Ferrari replaced it with the V12 Cilindri, a car not especially desirable to me, but one that will almost certainly have a beefed up version within the next 5 years. Such is the cycle of prancing horse life. I love all the improvements made to this car. It really gives it a racing feel. I love the carbon blade of the rear deck, even though it compromises visibility and inside makes it hellishly difficult to see out of. I like these pronounced carbon sills here. I like the fact that you can see the tyres looking through the rear vents. On this particular car and this spec, of course, I absolutely adore the combination of the gold wheels, the red and the interior. That beautiful blue poking out and harmonising with the red and the gold just to me evokes classic Le Mans, classic racing of the 60s. Add in the Nart stripe. Ugh. This is a good looking car. Overall then, the Competizione takes the svelte, balletic character of the 812 Superfast, which is a very pretty car, and it adds muscle and beef and aggression. It's a real Ray Winston of a car.
Where's your tool?
What tool? It's f***ing tool. Thank you for watching this episode of The Car Guys and Drive Every Ferrari on this 812 Competizione. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you found it entertaining and funny and thrilling. If you like what we're doing on The Car Guys, please subscribe, leave comments and likes. There'll be another episode soon.